If there's anything that you're struggling with in regard to your project related to Revit or things that we touch on in this class, please either ask it over the mic or throw it in the chat or something. That's really going to help me to know the areas that you're struggling and things that we can focus on. Because from my perspective, not being there in person and kind of seeing like the issues that you're all running into, it's a little bit harder for me to, know exactly what to focus on with the live sessions, because I'd much rather have these live sessions be to directly help you with the specific issues that you're dealing with. All the stuff that I have uploaded throughout the week for you guys to work on, that's really there to supplement your skill set in terms of being able to produce the work for Studio. But when you're running into problems and need help with specific things, that's kind of what I want these sessions to be gauged a little bit more toward. So if, like I said, anything comes up that you're struggling with specifically and you just want me to address it here, that would be great. So I'm going to go ahead through my list of topics that I kind of came up with, but like I said, if there's anything that you want me to talk about, please go ahead and let me know. Okay, so today I opened up the week 5 content. This week there's going to be a couple, let me see, there's not really any lectures. The only lecture would be the one related to your lab assignment that you'll follow along with. But starting out, we just have this PDF that's going to talk about phasing in Revit. Now, phasing, I think you might have touched on this in the past, maybe in the last Rep and Biz class, if memory serves. If not, it's okay. But go ahead and read through this. And this is going to kind of like explain the concept of phasing and what it's used for. Phasing is going to be required for the second part of the lab assignment that I'm going to walk you through in the video. So I'll kind of talk about it there, but I'm not really going to get into it today, just because it's not something that's required for your studio. It's an important thing for you guys to understand, but since it's not directly relevant to what you're doing immediately, I'm not going to focus a lot on it, but make sure that you review this. 1, because you're going to be using it for the lab. 2, because a lot of the questions on this quiz that just opened up pull from this document. Okay, I'd say over half of them are from this. So as long as you study this and understand kind of the things that it's telling you here, you should be in really good shape to take the quiz. Okay, and it's not too complicated. But for those of you who don't know, basically phasing is a way for you within Revit to show the model in different points in time. So for example, pretty much what you're used to right now is building out everything the way it's going to be in the future, right? You're starting with just an empty Revit file of the existing building, and then you're adding new things to it that you're wanting somebody to build. But a key part of the design process, whenever you're going to get out into the real world, is doing field documentation of existing conditions, right? So most likely you'll be going out on site, you'll be measuring out an existing space that you're going to be renovating, and then you're going to have to convey to a contractor who's doing the work what needs to be demolished so that the new design can go in. Okay, and that's when we use phasing. So essentially what we're doing with phasing is we're going to build out the entire building as is, build out all those existing conditions that you're going to be field measuring, or in some cases laser scanning, right? And then you're going to be denoting the elements that get demolished, okay? It's actually kind of fun to do once you get used to it, because you get to use the little hammer tool and go in and actually say I want to demo this wall, or I want to demo this element. So what this tool basically allows you to do then, once you go in and demolish things that you want to get rid of, is you can create demolition drawings to add to your CD set very, very easily. All right, so that's the way that you do that in Revit. And like I said, that's going to be part of this lab assignment. So just go ahead and read through this PDF. Focus on like these main areas where it's talking about phase settings. All right, phase settings that will achieve different results. The two big ones are the phase filter and the actual phase. All right, so as long as you focus on this, you should be pretty good for the quiz. All right, let me go back here. The next thing is Revit details exercise. So if we click on this, I have attached a Revit starter file, and this is just 2 exercises that are going to help you out with the detail drawing requirement for your studio assignment. Okay, so if I pull up your requirements really quick. Where did I put that? Not this. Talk about that later. There it is. All right. So if I pull up your requirements, you're going to be expected to produce a set of drawings related to millwork details, right? I'm not sure how much you would have gotten into detail drawings in the past, but this video this exercise that we're going to be going through is going to introduce you to the tools that you're going to need to produce those drawings for your studio project. All right. So you're just going to download this starter file, and then you're going to follow along with this PDF that's going to guide you through the exercises, and you're only going to follow along with these pages here, 16 to 28. So if I open that up really quick, scroll down. We're going to skip all this, and we're going to come down to page 16. And we're going to start here with exercise, create a detail section. And we're going to complete all this. So this is one exercise. Okay, all the way down to here. So down to page 25. And then page 25 and page 26, I think. No, down to page 28. Okay. 25 to 28 is a second exercise where you're adding in all the notes that go along with that section. All right. So you're drawing the section and all the detailed elements in the first exercise, page 16 to 25. And then 25 to 28, you're adding in these text notes to it. Okay. And these 2 videos right here are available for you to follow if you don't want to follow the PDF. And this is just going to guide you through it really easily. So shouldn't be too bad. So basically, all of the exercises for this module that you've done up until this point, so like the Revit template video, the LinkedIn learning exercises, these videos, all those exercises you should have been doing up to this point, including this, those will be submitted right here under Lab 2 Part 1 exercises. So if I open this, this is worth 20 points, and this is going to have all of the requirements in it for what you need to submit for that. And that's just making sure you followed along with those videos. And it's going to spell out exactly what you need to turn in. And that's going to be half of your grade for Lab 2. And it's just those exercises, everything you should have been doing up to this point. Part 2 of the lab assignment is going to be this residential renovation. And this is the video that's going to guide you through part 2, okay? So if you watch this, what we're basically doing is we're going to be creating a very, very simple CD set for a residential project, all right? So there's a floor plan of a house, and we're basically going to be renovating it and creating just maybe like 6 sheets or so, and a very just basic CD set. And the goal is that by creating this is going to help you with your actual studio project in terms of like knowing what you need to include and how to lay the drawing sheets out and get it all set up, okay? So you should be doing this sort of alongside your studio project, but hopefully this isn't going to be too difficult. And the video that I have here is going to be walking you through the bulk of it, all right? And then there's just going to be a couple of things left up to you to complete. So as long as you're following along with my video and working off of the starter file, you should be in pretty good shape for the rest of Lab 2, all right? So going back to the assignment Dropbox for that section, that's right here. So the residential renovation portion. This is going to just outline all the sheets that you're going to have to make. And this is worth 20 points. Okay, so the exercises, part 1, that's worth 20 points. This is also worth 20 points. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sheets. Okay, and these are very, very basic. And you'll see in my video, I'm going to show you sort of how these are laid out. It's not going to be to the level that your studio project is going to be. So don't get too overwhelmed by it. I know it looks like there's a lot of requirements here, but it's really not that bad. Like I said, as long as you're following along with the video, you should be in pretty good shape. And hopefully it's just a little supplement to help you with your CD set for studio. And then the last thing is going to be the quiz. So the quiz, again, is just 10 questions. And I'm going to give you until November 13th to do the quiz. So that's at least 2 weeks to do that. And then also for the part 1 of Lab 2. So this and the quiz due in 2 weeks. And then the CD set portion of this assignment is going to be due a week after that, right before Thanksgiving break. So you're going to have around 3 weeks to get that completed. So it should be plenty of time for all this stuff. All right. So I think that's about it for all of the components of this that we're going to have to worry about. Keep in mind, next week we're going to be moving on to rendering and talking a little bit more about Enscape. So there will be more stuff sort of on top of this starting next week with the Enscape sort of start to things. So like lectures and stuff like that. So although these due dates are kind of pushed back, you're still going to have to be watching content for next week that's opening up too. So just keep that in mind and don't let this stuff sort of get too far on the back burner. Okay. I think that's it for like all the new stuff I want to talk about this week. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up Revit and I'm going to talk about a few specific things related to your project. Are there any questions about anything that I just mentioned? Okay. So here's the Revit file that I was given from your studio instructors. Hopefully this should look pretty familiar to you. I'm just going to go ahead and review kind of the setup for your organization for your project browser. So setting up all of our drawings and things like that. And then also our sheets and how we can go about creating those and setting those up. So first of all, hopefully by this point you should have watched my video where I talked about Revit templates. If not, make sure that you go back and you watch that, because that's really going to help you with starting to lay out your project file for CDs. Okay, the first part of any good project file is project organization. Okay, and so by project organization, we want to be making sure that our project browser over here on the left side is set up in a way that is going to make it easy on us when it comes time to lay out our drawings, okay? So by default, if I were to just open up a new project, okay, and hopefully, like I said, this is all review because you've already watched my video. If I were to open up a new Revit project from scratch, by default, we don't get very great organization over here. Okay, we just get our plans, and then we get the levels, and then ceiling plan, elevation. That's fine, but when it comes time to set up CDs, we're going to have lots of different types of plans, right? We're going to have a architectural floor plan. We're going to have a life safety plan, furniture plan, finish plan, you name it, right? So we're going to be having multiples of all this. We want to make sure that the structure of that is reflected over in our project browser for easy navigation so that we can set up our drawings nicely. Okay, so going back to the file that I was given here for your studio project, this is the one Jakisha sent me, and with her section, I think she went ahead and she started doing this with them. So this is already kind of laid out a little bit. But as you can see, like we covered in the video, we want a structure where it breaks out our floor plans, and then it has all the different types of plans under there. Okay, so floor plan, architectural plan, and then under architectural plan, you're going to have like level 1 architectural plan, level 2, level 3, whatever. And that's going to be the same for all the different types of plans: finish, furniture, life safety, power data, working floor plan. Your working floor plan is going to be the plan view that you're modeling in, okay? And this is not ever going to be reflected in your drawing set. Hopefully that's obvious. Maybe it's not. But this is going to be your main view that you'll be in, drawing elements and changing the design, okay? These other views, you shouldn't really be touching at all until you get to laying out the CD set and you want to start detailing these drawings a little bit more. Okay, so if you have your file set up and you want to match this kind of hierarchy, all you have to do is you right click, you go to browser organization, and then we're going to be setting a new browser organization scheme. Go ahead and delete this one out. Called type. Okay, so you just want to go new, and I'm going to do type 2 since I already have type in here. Okay, so once we go into edit type 2, you just want to go to the grouping and sorting tab, and you want to be grouping this by family. And then for the then by, you want to set this to type. Okay, so this is what's going to actually break the hierarchy out into floor plan and then the specific type of plan underneath it. Then we just want to click on OK. Let me make sure that I did that correctly. Yep, family and type. So then you just check that setting on, and that's going to go ahead and that's going to give you this organization over here. So if I switch this back to just the regular setting, that's going to collapse this and make it a lot less useful. So now you're seeing floor plan like a bunch of times, which is not great. So again, type is going to take and collapse floor plan altogether, and then you can break out that tree into your different types of plans, which is nice. So that's for setting up the drawings. Now when it comes to creating new types of plans, you want to do that by going here to your View tab, and then you want to add a new plan view. Okay, so if I were to go to the plan view section, floor plan, under here you get these types. So these are all the ones that Jakisha added in and that I showed you in the video. If you want to add a new type to this, so I don't know, since these are already in here, let's just say like, let's say demolition plan, since that's not in here yet. So you want to come into this window and you want to duplicate this. Okay, so now I'm making a copy of life safety. Usually you want to duplicate the one that is the closest to the thing you're making. So if I were making like an architectural floor plan, maybe I would duplicate my working plan or something like that, if that makes sense, because that's going to keep most of the settings the same. So for demolition plan, just want to put the name in here. Okay. And then we get the option of which level do I want to create the demolition plan for. So let's just say level 2 is fine. And then that's going to add demolition plan over here on the left side. Right there. So now I get that new tab breaking out for demolition plan, okay? So you just want to go ahead and you want to take all of the your studio requirements. Where the heck did I put that? Right there. So you just want to go ahead and you want to find all of your different types of plans or drawings, you know, whatever is listed here, and you want to get all of those set up ahead of time. Okay, so then you don't have to go in after the fact while you're doing it and set them all up. If they're all set up in advance, it's going to be a lot easier. So go ahead and make sure you have your finished plan, your furniture plan, RCPs, regular architectural floor plan, life safety, all of that set up. Okay, so the next part of this is your sheet setup. Okay, so I talked a little bit in one of my intro videos about sheet conventions and kind of the series in how you go ahead and organize your sheet numbering within a CD set. Let me pull that up really quick just to remind you. All right, so this window here is talking about the components that go into sheet organization. So at the beginning we have our discipline designator, and that's going to indicate, you know, who is the party involved with this particular sheet in the drawing set. Is it architecture people? Is it mechanical people, electrical people, or you know, plumbing, something like that. So that's going to be your discipline. A, M, E, P, whatever that first letter is your discipline. Now, another discipline that we're going to be using is G, and that's general. So things like your title sheet, that's going to just be a G instead of an A, right? The next thing that you have is your sheet type. Okay, so 1 through 9 is what those numbers are going to indicate. 1 is going to be a plan, 2 is going to be an elevation, 3 is going to be a section, and so on. And then the sequence numbers are just going to indicate what number of that specific type of drawing is it. So maybe your architectural plan will be A101, and then maybe your furniture plan will be A102, since it's also a plan. It's just the next plan in the sequence. So when we're in Revit and we want to make sure that we're setting up our sheets correctly, you want to be coming in here to your sheets, right-clicking, and whenever we're setting up a new sheet, first we're choosing our title block. Let me know if you don't have the title block. Hopefully they gave that to you, but if you need this, let me know and I can send it to you. But the title block should be loaded in as its own family into your project. So we want to choose that, and that's going to take us to our sheet view where we just have the title block set up. And then we want to go ahead and give these names, right? And we can either name them from the title block itself, or we can do it from the project browser by right-clicking and renaming it. So if I wanted this to be my cover sheet, this might be G100, for example. Okay. When I did that, the only thing is we don't have a nice kind of setup here for our sheets in terms of the organization. So I can modify that too, just like I can modify my views. And what's most useful for this is if we organize it based on the discipline designator, so that first character here on the left side. So to do that, you just want to right-click on your sheets and go to Browser Organization. And then we want to go ahead and sort this by sheet prefix. And then click Apply. And then that's just going to break these out based on the discipline. So now I have my G separate from my A, for example. Okay. And then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to set up all of your sheets for all of your drawings that are in here. And then it's a good idea as you're doing this to start dropping the views onto the sheets. So for example, if I go to Life Safety Plan, you just want to start coming into your views as you're making them and just dragging those on. And you don't really have to worry about placement right now. Okay, just drag them on so that they're there and ready to go, and then worry about placement after the fact. So then I can go into architectural floor plan, and I can just drag my level 1 architectural floor plan onto that too. Let's get rid of it here. Okay, so I would go ahead and I would just get as much of this easy stuff out of the way, just so that it's all organized for you up front and you already have views placed on all of your sheets like you need them. And then as you're worrying about the detailing and all the drawing aspects, that's going to be updating in real time as you're making those changes. So, all that stuff should already be set up front. And if you're adding dimensions and things like that, when you're editing these views, when you go back to your sheet at the end, when you're worrying about your actual sheet composition, all of those things will already be in place for you because you did it up front, and it's going to save you a lot of headache. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk about in terms of your views is your view templates. And hopefully you guys understand the concept of a view template at this point. If not, we really need to make sure that you do understand it, because I ran into this issue in the past with prior students where they are confused about what a view template is, and then they never use it, and it causes a lot of problems, and it leads to them doing a lot of unnecessary work that they don't need to worry about. Okay, so as a recap, a view template is just a predefined set of settings that you can save, and then you can apply it to any view to make it the type of drawing that you want. So, for example, a furniture plan, you would never have dimensions on it. And a architectural floor plan, you would have dimensions, but you wouldn't have furniture. So you want to set up a template with those view settings specific to it so that you can apply it to those different types of views and very easily create the setting that you want, okay? So if I were to go down here under the properties palette, under identity data, we have the view template setting. Okay, and by default, that's going to be set to none. So it's just going to look like this. When it's set to none, that's when you can click VV and pull up the visibility graphic overrides and go in here and change what's being shown on the view. Okay, so if I go in here and I add a dimension, for example, just throw in a dimension here. I come in here to my visibility graphics, okay? I have the option to scroll down to dimensions under annotation, right? We have model and we have annotation. Anything like dimension or text related is going to be under annotation. So I'm going to come in here, go to D. I'm going to find my dimensions. And if I uncheck that, it's just going to go ahead and hide it, right? So that's what I would want to do for like a furniture plan, because I don't want to show those. Now, if this were a architectural plan, I would want to turn off furniture, right? So if I go in here under model, I find my furniture, that should be turned off so that if I'm placing a piece of furniture, it's not going to show up. If I have a piece of furniture. Okay, so this piece of furniture, when I go to place it, right, it's showing as invisible because I have that unchecked. When I place it, Revit's going to give me an error, and it's going to say you can't see it because you have furniture turned off. Okay, so now if I go to furniture plan, there it is. All right, so you basically want to go in and you want to create a view template specific to each view type. Okay, so furniture plan, we have one called furniture plan. And by default, you should just have like architectural plan in here. And the way that you make these is you duplicate them. Okay, so I'm going to start with architectural plan. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate this. So let's just call this one furniture plan 2. Okay, and then you just go ahead under this section, and this is where you override all those different categories. So we have overrides for the model, for the annotation, and all kinds of other stuff. But really you're only worried about these two buttons here and maybe the view scale, depending on what they are going to require from you for the studio project. That's where you would set the scale. Now, when you have a view template turned on, if I were to activate this, when you go down here to your settings for the view, these are going to be all grayed out and you won't be able to modify them. Okay, and that's because the view template's overriding them. If I turn this to none and I go back here, now I can change it because there's no view template applied. I can change all that stuff. I can pull up VV and I can change the settings there. When I reapply that and I try to do VV, it's all grayed out because that's being overridden by the view template. Okay, and Revit's not very specific about this. It doesn't really give you a warning. The only warning you get that there's a view template applied is when you try to change something and it grays out and won't let you. So you want to apply your view template, and then you just want to go in here and you want to check or uncheck all the things that you don't want to see in that specific view. So again, for a furniture plan, I'm definitely not going to want dimensions. And you don't have to worry too much about this stuff. It's really only going to be a few things that you're unchecking. Maybe, for example, we don't want to see column grids is another big one that you would want to worry about. That might be under model. Columns. Column tags. There's going to be like a list of stuff that hopefully they'll give you in Studio to help you determine what you need to uncheck from this list in order to have your drawing set up right, or to have your view template set up right. But you're just going to create one view template for each view, go in here, uncheck all the things that you don't want, and apply it, okay? Then you won't have to worry about it being set up right. You're just going to edit all of it through the view template, okay? And the nice thing about that is, if you set up your view templates now, you can reuse these for projects down the road, okay? And that's the goal. The reason why it's been a problem in the past with students not understanding view templates is because they don't use them, and when they get to later projects, they have to go in and redo all of this manually. So usually they will just have this set to none, and for each individual view, they'll be going into their settings and they'll be turning this stuff on and off, and that just takes forever. If you go ahead and you do the work now, which you're going to have to do it anyway, but if you do it now in a view template, it's going to be way easier on yourself down the line with other projects where you can just pull these settings in, and the entire CD set from an organizational perspective is already set up for you. Okay, so if you do the work now with this Studio project, it's really going to save your butt down the road when you're going to have to redo all this stuff otherwise. So my recommendation, be really diligent with the way that you're setting up this project, because it's not only just about the here and now, it's also about next semester Studio. It's also about your senior Studio, and whatever else, if there's any other projects for other classes that will require you to get into Revit and produce some kind of a CD set. Just get it all set up now, and it's going to save you in the long run. Okay, so again, use a view template. Don't just hit VV, change all your settings there. Or go here to change your scales and stuff. It should all be done in a view template. Let me know if you have questions about view templates. Otherwise, I'm going to talk a little bit about the life safety stuff that they're requiring for you. Let me go ahead and switch over here to that plan. So life safety stuff, this one is a little bit challenging because that's a new requirement that they added to this assignment that was not in there last year. So this is something that I hadn't really originally covered in the course prior. So now I'm kind of going to have to show you some of the tools related to life safety that are going to help you with setting up your life safety sheet. So the first thing in here is path of travel. Okay, so path of travel is basically a way for you to indicate on the plan the route that somebody would take from the most remote point on the plan, or whatever view you're looking at, to the nearest exit. Right, you're going to want to denote that with some kind of a path. Okay, so to go ahead and denote path of travel, we have a really cool tool in Revit that's going to do that for us automatically. The old way of doing it would have just been to go in here and draw in lines manually. So if I were to go to annotate and then add in detail lines, I could start out by drawing in these lines and kind of indicating my path this way. So let's say if I'm going from this room all the way down here, the corner, right, there's kind of my path. But that's not a great way to do it because Revit has a tool built in that's going to simplify this greatly for you. Okay, so if you were to come in here under Analyze, we have these tools over here on the right side underneath the Route Analysis section. And if you look right here, we have a Path of Travel tool. So this tool is very, very easy to use. All you have to do is click on 2 points. Okay, so if I click on this, I can first choose my origin point, which is like going to be the remote point in the building that you want to indicate the path of travel from. So if I go to this room and I click here in the corner, my second point is going to be the exit. Okay, so if my exit is over here, I can just click right here on the end point in the middle of the doorway. And watch what happens when I click on that. It's going to go ahead and it's going to automatically calculate the quickest route from that room to that exit point. And it's going to add in all the bends and stuff automatically for you. Now, another requirement for your studio assignment is indicating, okay, well, how far is this distance, right? By code, this should be under 75 feet. To the nearest exit, right? That's what they indicated on your assignment requirement. So if we want to indicate this, we can pull that data from this tool using a tag, okay? So if I were to go here to load in a tag to my project for path of travel, you can go up to Insert, and then you can either load this family directly from like your downloaded content, or you can pull it right here from this button, and this is going to open up the cloud browser, and you can search for any kind of Revit family in here too, which is really, really nice actually. So if I know that I want a path of travel tag that's going to tell me distance, I can just type in path of, and I can just start, typing that. And it's going to pop up here with path of travel tag. So I'll go ahead and I'll load that in. And now, if I were to go to my Annotate tab, I can add a tag to that path of travel marker. So Annotate and then Tag by category. And when I hover over my path of travel, you can see it's applying that path of travel tag to my path of travel route, okay? And when I click to place it, it then is telling me that the length of this entire dashed line is 116 or 16 feet, and it's going to take me 26 seconds to get from this point to the exit in a reasonable walking pace. All right, so that's also going to help you with just design stuff too. If you were to analyze a route like this and you see that, oh, this is 116 feet, well, maybe I need to adjust my design then to get things closer to the exit, or I need to add another exit somewhere else. So that's why this is useful, and that's how you're going to note this on your life safety plan, is just by using this tag here and tying it to the route generated by the path of travel tool. You'll also probably have to add in additional routes. So usually you're going to have like a main path of travel or a common path of travel, and then you'll have kind of branching paths that lead to your common path of travel. And to add those in, it's as simple as just going to here and then adding in a second path of travel. So let's say I had a point up here somewhere that I needed to tie into this. I could just click here on that origin and then click on my path of travel. and then you can just tie it to it. And then if you need to add in additional like waypoints in here, you can select this and you can add a waypoint. So let's say there's an obstacle in this path that you need to go around. You can click to add that point in, and then you can drag this to update to go around that obstacle, right? So you can just add in as many of these path of travel lines as you need that tie into the common path of travel, right? So you can just add as many branches as you need to kind of illustrate the point. But that's how you would go about doing that on your life safety sheet. Now, my studio professor wanted me to ask you what the dimension should be rounded to in our project. Who's your studio professor? Was that Keisha? Okay. Probably like 1/8 of an inch, I would say. 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. I don't think that you need to go too deep into it. Let me see what the default is. So they have rounding by default set to 1/32. Honestly, I usually don't change it, but I don't think you would need to go more than 1/8 of an inch. So if you set it to that, I think you would be fine. Yep. I don't know if there's any specific thing that the other instructors want, but you don't need to show anything beyond that. So the next thing for life safety would be fire ratings. So they want you to indicate fire ratings for partitions as well as for doors. Okay. So one way to do it for partitions, and this is probably the most common way, is to use filters. And filters are a view setting within your view template that you can use to override the appearance of objects based on a set condition. So, for example, let's say all of these blue walls are going to be 2 hour rated, and all the red walls are going to be 1 hour rated. So right now, any wall that is set to generic 12-inch masonry is set to a 2 hour fire rating. So you just want to select the wall that you want to set the fire rating for, and then you hit edit type right there. You're going to scroll all the way down until you hit the fire rating parameter within identity data. And you're just going to type in what the rating is. So either 1 HR or 2 HR is typically what it's going to be. So I'm going to set this one to 1 HR. And also, this is by no means like realistic at all. This is just for me to demonstrate to you. I have no idea what these fire ratings would be for these actual walls, but just to illustrate the point, right? So then for your basic wall 7 5/8 inch, do the same thing. Come in here and set that to be a 1 hour fire rating. And now right now I'm showing this so that anything that is a 1 hour is showing up in red, and anything that is 2 hours is showing up in blue. Okay, so to do that, you want to edit your view template. So we'll go to my life safety view template, and then we're going to come down here to, I don't know if they show it here or not. Yeah, they don't have it under here. So to get to it, you just go to VG Overrides Model. And within this window, there's this section here that says Filters. Okay. So the filters just allow you to set rules to change the way that things appear. Okay, so I just have a rule set up that's going to look for that fire rating parameter on the walls. And if the fire rating is set to 1 hour, it's going to make the wall red. If it's set to 2 hour, it's going to make the wall blue. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm just going to remove the ones I have in here to show you how it would look for you. So when you open this up, it's going to look like this. There's going to be no filters set or anything. And let me just apply that so that that goes away. Okay. So again, under filters, you just want to go here to edit new. And let me get rid of these. And then right here under rule-based filters, you're going to click new to create a new one. And then we're just going to call this, we're just going to name it based on the fire rating. So I'm going to call this first one 1HR. And then I'm going to, oh, we got to edit it first. So to edit this rule, we're going to first indicate the type of object that the rule concerns. So in this case, the type of object is a wall. Okay, so we're going to scroll down here and we're going to find walls, and we're going to check that. Now here is where you define the condition that needs to be met for the graphics of the wall to be overridden. So all you want to do here is you want to set, I don't remember, and hang on, I gotta cheat here for a minute. I gotta see what I set up to before. I don't do this very often, just to be clear. So let me edit that. Okay. Yeah, so we want to edit the wall's fire rating parameter, and that has to equal that value for it to work. So let me do that again. Okay. So 1 hour. That's going to be for walls. And then right here, we find fire rating. Right there. Equals 1 HR. And we'll say if that's 1 hour, we're gonna make it red. Okay. So then we hit apply, and then we're gonna add in our 2-hour rule. So now 2 HR. Again, walls. Fire rating. Equals, and this is going to be 2 HR. Okay. Okay, yep. Then once we make them, you have to go here to add, and we have to add those now to this little template here. So we just click on 1 hour, click OK. It's going to add it in. Then we click 2 hour, click OK, and it's going to add it in. Now to change the way that this appears, you have to go here under cut. Okay, we have to change the cut pattern right there. So you just want to select the rule, click here on override under cut pattern. And now you can make this anything you want it to be. In this case, I'm using solid colors, but since you guys are going to be printing this out physically on a black and white paper on the CD set, you might want to use a hatch pattern to show this instead, right? Because a solid color is not going to translate well to grayscale, unless you're using two really high contrast colors where you can tell them apart. But for your case, you might want to do one as like a diagonal pattern. And I'm just going to set the color as well, just so it's easier to see. And then the other one, I'm going to do some other type of pattern. So let's try this small diagonal crosshatch, and then we'll set the color to blue. Okay, then when we hit apply, you can see what happened. So any 1 hour rated wall is going to have that red diagonal hatch showing, and anything 2 hours is going to have the blue crosshatch. Okay, then we just back out, hit apply, and then we hit OK, and then that's going to be applied to our view. So now, if I were to place that onto my life safety sheet, so let's go to my A100 where I have my life safety plan that's placed. We need a way to indicate to the person viewing this drawing, okay, I see these different hatch patterns, but what does that actually mean, right? They have to know that the diagonal one means 1 hour and the other one means 2 hour. And the way that we can do that is with a legend. Okay, so I talked about legends a little bit in one of my videos. But legends are basically a blank space where you can like add text and images, and it's just really simple, and then you can plop them onto your sheets to call something out. So we can use legends in this case to indicate our hatch pattern. Okay, so over here in the project browser, you can get to legends by this section here. You can right click and do a new legend. Or you can go up here to View, and you can add in a legend here too, under Legends. So Legend 1, and then I'm just going to leave the scale as default. I'm going to call this Partition Fire Ratings. Okay. And then that's just going to take you to a blank view. So there's nothing in here. If you go to the, let me think here. It's been a while since I've done a legend. If you go to annotate, under here, these are the tools you're mainly going to be worried about within a legend view. Text and regions. Okay. So I can create a region. Actually, let me back that up there. You have two types of regions, masking region and filled region. We're going to be using filled regions, okay? So what a filled region lets you do is you can draw basically a swatch. So let's do, I'm just going to draw a swatch 4 inches by 4 inches. And then within this swatch, so this is the boundary, you can define a hatch pattern to fill this. So in this case, let's say I do the diagonal crosshatch and then I click apply. It's in there, but the scale is so big that it doesn't really show. So I can up my scale a little bit so that that shows up a bit smaller. So now I can see that diagonal crosshatch. Then I can copy this. Whoops, if I type the right command. I can copy that down. And I can call this the diagonal down pattern. Okay, so there's my two fire rating hatch patterns that I want to show. And then it's as simple as just adding some text in here. And we'll go ahead and call this a 1 hour partition and a 2 hour partition. Whoops. Now let's get those lined up. Just like that, and then you can go ahead and drop this on your sheet. So if you go back to life safety plan, I can then go here under legends. I can grab my partition fire ratings legend, and I can drop that onto my sheet over here. Okay. and it's just going to show like that. It's going to give you a title by default. Okay, so in this case, you would probably want to click on the viewport right here, and under the viewport settings, you can take this viewport type, and any viewport by default is going to have this title bar under it. But if I duplicate this and I call this, I make a new type of viewport and I call it no title, I can then on this no title one turn off the show extension line and turn off view title. Okay, and those will go away like that. And then you can just double click in here and you can make edits to this. So then if I want to add my title up here, for example, I can just add more text, annotate text, and then I can name this partition fire ratings. Okay. Something like that. And when you're done, you just double click out of it, and now it's just floating there, and you can move it anywhere that you want. So legends are going to be a big thing that you use a lot for CD sets to call out specific items within the drawing. Okay, and you use legends for all kinds of stuff. Like in my example, I used it for the door schedule because you can pull in 2D representations of families. So if I were to double click in there and then find a family, let's say you're putting together like a symbols legend to indicate objects on the floor plan and what they are. If we had, in this case, like a fire extinguisher, and we wanted to make a legend. So let's say I copy that. Oops, nope. What the heck happened? I lost my project browser. View, user interface. If you ever lose anything on your left side here, you just go to view and then user interface, and then you can check it back on. So I lost my project browser. Let's say I wanted to make a legend and I wanted to show like emergency devices that are relative to the life safety plan. So maybe I just call this like symbol legend, right? If I were to load a family for like a fire extinguisher, like that, which that's a really nice feature too, that cloud browser. So that way you don't have to go and hunt down a bunch of specific families for what you're looking for online. Always just check this first because you can just pull it from there. It's going to be way easier on you. Okay, so if I pull in a fire extinguisher and I want to show in my legend view what that looks like in a floor plan, you just want to come down here to your family section in your project browser and you want to expand it, and then you want to find that in here. And this is going to be organized by category. So let me see what kind of a category that was. So I want to place that. I'm just going to place one on this wall here. So if we click on it now, I can see that's specialty equipment. Okay. So going back to my symbol legend, I just want to come down here under my families and I want to find my specialty equipment section. it gets very hard when there's so much stuff in here. Furniture. Okay, so we're in the F's profiles. Specialty equipment. Fire extinguisher cabinet. Okay, so I can grab one of these sizes here for the fire extinguisher cabinet, and I should be able to just drag that into this view and drop it. Okay, and this is going to show me how that's going to look in a floor plan, floor plan representation. I also could change this to be an elevation. So if for some reason you wanted to indicate how this looks in elevation view as well, you can select it and go here to view direction and switch that to elevation. And now I'm seeing what that looks like from a front view. Okay. So you would just do that for any 2D symbol that's relative to the plan you're working on. And then you would just add all that stuff to your symbol legend, right? And then you just drop that onto your sheet. So going back to my life safety plan, I can find my legend for symbol legend. And then you can go through the same stuff. And so I can switch this to be no title. And then I can edit this. So let's switch this back to floor plan. Okay, and then I can add in some text for fire extinguisher. Something like that. And then I can give this a title, and I can call this symbols legend, like that. Now another thing is font sizes, and they're going to have standards set up for you for how big they want the font sizes to be. The rule of thumb that I usually stick to is anything that's a title is going to be 1/4 inch, and anything that is like a like secondary text, so not a title, is going to be 1/8 inch. So if you want to change that, all you have to do is edit type, and then you want to create a new type for that specific size font. So if right now in here by default we have 1/4 inch and 3/32 of an inch, and then the font name. So if I want 1/8 inch Arial, I have to duplicate this, call it 1/8 inch Arial. Okay, and then just change the text size to 1/8 inch, like that. Okay, and then that's just going to drop it down. So you just want it to roughly look like this, and you want there to be a hierarchy between your titles and your like body fonts. Okay, so then I can just click on these ones too, and I can knock those down to 1/8 inch, so that it looks a little bit better and it's easier to read. Okay, so that's how I would go about denoting your graphical stuff on the plan, is just create these legends for anything that you have to call out, and then just plop them on your sheet. Another way that you can denote things is with schedules. We did a little bit with schedules in one of these past videos where we created a door schedule. And that's how I would recommend calling out your ratings for your doors. So your fire ratings for your doors. For the walls, we can do it graphically with these hatches and your legend. For the doors, it's a little bit tougher. In some cases, you can get tags that you apply to these doors that will have the indication for fire rating on them. But usually the easiest way to do it is to create a schedule to show that. So if you wanted to do this, for doors, you would select one, edit type, scroll down here again, and you're going to find under identity data that exact same fire rating that we had for the walls. Okay, so because I already entered 1 hour and 2 hour for the walls, I'm going to get the fire ratings in there for the doors that I can apply. So let's just say all of these single doors, we're just going to make those 1 hour rated. Okay, and that should carry over here. Okay, so anything that's this 36 by 80 inch door is going to automatically be 1 hour. And then anything that is this double door, I'm going to make that a 2 hour. Come in here and just change that to 2 hour. And yeah, that should also be 1 hour. So now what we can do is we can create a schedule to show that. So it's pretty simple. You just have to go to View and then Schedules, and then right here, Schedule and Quantity. And again, for those of you who don't know a lot about schedules, a schedule is essentially just an Excel spreadsheet with rows and columns that provide data about a particular thing. Okay, so we're just creating an Excel spreadsheet in Revit. Now, I want my schedule to be about doors. So under category, I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find doors. All right, and we're going to call this, let's just call this door fire ratings. And then we can leave the other stuff at default. So now, this window that pops up, schedule properties, this is basically asking us what columns do we want in our spreadsheet. And it's going to create the columns based on the parameters that are available to us. So the main parameter that we want is fire rating, right? Because that's what it's about. So we're going to find fire rating. We're going to select it there, and then we're going to add it over here. So we're going to pull that in from the left side over to what's being shown in the schedule. So we have fire rating. Then we're also going to want to show the type of door. So that's just going to be, is it a single door? What are the dimensions of the door? Is it a double door? And so on. So you want to find the relative information related to that. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to find type. I'm going to pull that in. And then we might also want to pull in type mark. Okay, so we're going to pull that in too. And then if you want to reorder these, you just click on them and you can move them up and down, and that's going to change the way that they show in the schedule. So I'm going to do type first, and then type mark, and then fire rating, and we'll see how that looks. So now I'll just click OK, and that's going to take me to my schedule view. So you can see column 1, type, because I had it as the highest in the list. Column B, type mark, and then C is fire rating. Okay, so right now this schedule is pulling in every single door in the project. It's creating a row for it, and then it's showing you what is assigned to those parameter values for each instance of the door in the project. Okay, so something that you can do is you can filter this down to only be specific doors in the project. Let's say I want to filter this down to be only doors that have a fire rating tied to them. So if I want to filter out all this other stuff that does not have a fire rating tied to it, I can just go to my sorting right here under other. And I'll say this, schedules, you got to get used to them the way that they work. They're a lot less intuitive than just an Excel spreadsheet. It's very annoying. figuring out what all this stuff means in the schedule tool. But let's say I want to add in a filter to filter out the garbage. So we'll add in a filter that says fire rating equals, actually we'll say fire rating has a value, okay? And hopefully anything that does not have a value for fire rating is going to be filtered out for us, like that. Okay, so now we just have all the doors in the project that have a fire rating. The second thing to look at now is this type mark. So the type mark is telling you the specific type of door. So let's say we have door type 1 and we have door type 2. Door type 1 is always going to be a double door, 84 inches tall by 6 feet wide, okay? And then door type 2 is always going to be 84 inches tall, 3 feet wide. It's going to be a single door. If I go back to my architectural plan, I can come under here and I can go to my settings again, down here under identity data. You can see I have that type mark value. So let's say I want this double door to be my type 1, okay? So anytime we have type 1, it's going to be this double door. And then my single door is always going to be type 2. So we'll change that from 19 to 2. Just going to ignore that. Okay. If I go back to my schedule, I should now just have type 1 and type 2. But I get a bunch of duplicates, obviously. Like, I don't need all this information about, you know, every single door that's in the project. So I want to filter this down to just door type 1 is 72 by 80, and that's going to be 2 hour rated. Type 2 is 36 by 80, and that's going to be 1 hour rated. Okay? So to do that, it's very simple. You just go under sorting and grouping, and you just uncheck this button that says itemize every instance. Click OK, and it broke. So then you got to look at why it's breaking. Sort by type. There we go. So you just want to uncheck itemize every instance right there. And instead, we want to create a rule that sorts this by type. So type 1 and type 2. And then you can choose ascending or descending. So it's looking at this number here. And right now, it's going to put the higher number at the top of the list. So since this is a 2, it's going to put 36 by 80 at the top. So if I switch this to descending, it's going to flip that for me. So I have type 1 and I have type 2. All right. So we'll just leave that as door fire ratings. And then we can go back to our life safety plan. And we can drag that schedule right there. And there's all of our fire rating information. All right. And then you could add in like a tag here to your doors for type 1. So if I go here to annotate, or type 1 or type 2, if I go here to my floor plan and I go annotate tag by category, actually let's go tag all. I can click on door tags and then click apply, and it's going to apply a door tag to all these doors. Now with these door tags, I can change this so that it shows the type number. Got to remember how to do this exactly. So I can come under here, under edit label, And right now, it's giving you the number of the door. So for a door numbering, it's going to show you first, the 1 is going to be the level that it's on in the building. And then this is the sequence, just like your CD set. So O1 is going to be the first door, O2 is going to be second, and so on. You can add in type to this, type mark. So we're going to add in a value for type mark, and then click apply. And then I'm just going to edit this symbol a little bit. Oops. Let's delete out these 2 arcs. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense what I'm doing right now, but when I load it back in, you'll hopefully get it. We're just adding another parameter into this door tag so that it doesn't just show the number of it. So I can then, under create, add in a line here to redraw that, and I can just add in a arc like this. And now when I load it back into the project, and I overwrite all the existing ones, you can see that it's going to add in that type number underneath of the door number, right? So the door number is 104, but its type is 1. And then this one is door number 7, but this is number 2. So now I have something that ties my schedule over here. Whoops. Need to go back to my life safety plan. Now I have something over here that ties this information from my schedule to my plan. So anytime I see a 2 on my plan, I'm going to know that that's a 1 hour rated door. Anytime I see a 1 on my plan for a door, so for example, this one has a 1 on it, I'm going to know that that is a 2 hour rated door, okay? So that's kind of the approach that I would take for all of your like fire ratings and stuff. For doors, I would set up some kind of a schedule like this, and I would use tags to link the information on the floor plan to that schedule so that it's very easy for somebody to look at it and just know the ratings. For the partitions, I would do that all with a legend showing your hatch patterns for the specific fill of the wall. And then I would use the filter underneath the view template, right, to set up the rule that is going to highlight, or it's going to fill in the wall with those hatch patterns based on the fire rating that is set within the wall. Right there, under fire rating. Okay? So hopefully that clears that up a little bit. I know it's still pretty complicated and a lot of work to get to that point, but hopefully that's a little bit clearer. All right, last thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight is your occupancy and space uses. So on your requirement sheet, also for this life safety plan, you're supposed to be denoting occupancy uses. And the way that we can do that is through color schemes. Okay, so if you watch the video that I had posted, I think last week, about finished plans, where we went in and we added a hatch pattern to the floor plan based on the floor finish, we use the color scheme tool to do that. And the color scheme tool can also be used to add indications on your plan of different occupancy types and uses for each space. Okay. So if you're wanting to show stuff like that on your plan, what you would want to do first is use the room tool. So if I activate my floor plan view here on my sheet, I want to go ahead and I want to add in rooms for all of these spaces that I want to note. Okay, so if I go to architecture and I use the room tool, I first want to place a room in all of these spaces. Okay, and then if you're noting like not wasted spaces, but spaces like this, for example, where you have the elevators, you can place rooms in there too, and we're going to categorize that as like shaft space. Okay, so place a room there and there, and then we'll place, one here and one here. Okay, so now that you have some rooms placed, all you have to do to categorize these rooms by their occupancy is you want to hover over the edge of the wall of the space you're trying to change. So let's say I want to do this like hallway here. I want to hover over this edge and then hit tab to get the room object, and then I can select it. Once you select it, on the left side we have a bunch of fields that we can edit about that room, and one of them is occupancy. So let's say, for example, we wanted to designate like business occupancy, like spaces that are to be used for business. I can just type business there and then hit enter, and that's going to change it. And then let's say over here, and this is completely made up, right? Don't take this seriously. Let's say that these are residential, okay? I'm just going to change the occupancy over here to residential. And then let's just say that this one is like, I don't know. We'll say that this one is also business, I guess. I can't think of occupancies for some reason. Let me just look them up. Educational. Okay, we'll say that this one is educational. So we'll add a room back in. Okay, tab to it, and we're going to call this one under occupancy educational. Right, not very realistic, but whatever. So you see as I do that though, it's adding these random colors in based on that parameter value. The way I did that was if you go here under color scheme and you click on that, by default it's set to none. Okay, so it'll look like this. So we click on color scheme, and then we want to create a new scheme that's going to colorize or add a pattern to these spaces based on the occupancy. So you want to choose as your category here rooms, because we're going off of the room objects that we made. And then we want to go here under department. Okay, click on the department option. Over here on the right, you're going to have this color section, and you want to switch this to be the occupancy field that we were typing into. So I click on occupancy, and it's automatically going to populate all of those occupancies that we typed in into here. And it's going to randomly generate a color for them, right? And we can make these colors anything that we want. However, for a CD set that's going to be printed out in black and white, like I said, it's going to be very hard to differentiate color when you're looking at grayscale. So instead of a color, you might want to fill this in with a fill pattern. So we could set the color for all of these to be like a black or like a middle gray, so that it'll stand out from our walls. So I'll just do that for all of them. Okay, and then we will change the fill pattern to something different for each one. And it doesn't really matter what it is, just as long as they are all different. You want to avoid things that are like building elements though, like brick and stuff, because then it's going to be a little like confusing maybe to look at. So you just want to choose things that are like different enough but don't like look like a drawn element, like a modeled element. Alright, so let's just say that those are fine. So now when I do that, you can see what happens, and it's going to give a different hatch pattern based on that occupancy type. Okay, and then anytime that I add a new space to a particular occupancy type, so let's say I want to add this space in here as a stairwell, when I go to room and I place it, not enclosed. That's another thing. It has to be enclosed. So right now it's giving me an error because this space right here is open. So if I put a room separator in down here to close that off, now this is all wonky. If I enclose it right there, I should be able to place my room. There we go. And then we can tab to it, and we can choose from the drop-down list under occupancy stairwell, right? And that's going to add that in and give it the same hatch pattern as this stairwell over here. Then once you have that set up, all you got to do then is add your legend. Come on, I don't know why it's locked me into this view. You just have to add your legend for the color scheme onto your sheet. Okay, so let me see if I can back out of this. I don't know why it's locked my view. Now would be a good time for questions if any of you are, well, I'm trying to figure this out, if any of you have a question about anything. If you're still awake. Life safety. What on earth? Why is it doing that? Do I have some other window open maybe? Whoops. It's so weird. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now you gotta add the legend for those spaces onto our sheet here. So to do that, if we go up to view, I believe, and then where was it? View, manage. Was under legends. How did I do that? I cannot for the life of me remember how I added that legend onto the sheet. It's in the video under that finished plans video where I added the legend to this. Man, I cannot, it's bugging me. I can't remember how I did that. After you get the color scheme set up though, you can just drag and drop that legend onto the sheet super easily. Yeah, and it's in that video, so I would refer to it, but I am just blanking right now because you have to do something special to like get it to show up. Man, this is, yeah, whatever. I'll just refer you to that video for now because I don't want to take up the rest of the time trying to remember what button that is. 1 second. Oh, duh. Okay. Annotate color fill legend. That's where it is. That's the button. Yeah, see, I'm stuck in the viewport. Oh. Okay. So you have to apply, that's right. You have to apply the color fill legend inside of the view itself. Okay, so we have to be double clicked into the view, not on the sheet, and then you can place your color fill legend here. There we go. Oh man. All right, so that's all it is. And then it just makes it for you, which is really nice. And as you can see, all the text sizes are consistent and stuff. But yeah, so for life safety, I would just worry about doing this type of thing for all of those requirements that you have. And this should get you most of the way there in terms of like getting all those things onto the sheet that you need. Any questions about anything that I talked about? Or is there anything specific that you are struggling with maybe that I can touch on before we close it out? That was a lot of stuff, I know, and you're definitely going to want to go back and rewatch this because it's just a lot to remember, but hopefully that answered some of the harder things. I think the other kind of hard requirement that you're going to be dealing with is your detail drawings, and I don't really have time to talk about that tonight, but those exercises that you're going to be doing this week that detail or that concern details, those should really help you if you are not too familiar with detail drawings. So as long as you're completing those, that's going to expose you to all those tools that you'll be using, and it should make it a lot easier. Other than that, I'm just looking over your requirements for the project really quick. A lot of this stuff will be covered in the videos that I've already put out, as well as that new video for the house renovation that you'll be doing for Lab 2. A lot of that stuff carries over to your studio project. So I would get started on the second half of the Lab 2 assignment sooner rather than later, so that you can take what you're doing in that assignment, you can take advantage of it, right? And you can apply that knowledge directly to what you're doing now in studio. If you wait toward the due date, you're not going to get as much out of the assignment, and it's just going to be you doing the work but not really reaping the benefit of the work, if that makes sense. So we don't want to be doing the assignments just to get them done. We want to be like taking stuff away from them to be using right now for studio. So that is my recommendation. Do it sooner rather than later, but that will get you like 99% of the way there, all the videos and stuff. And then any like small little specific thing, either come to me or go to your studio professor and have them clarify and kind of show you, how to do those things. So like things like power and data, that's a little bit confusing, but it's really just a variation on the other plans that you're doing. You're just putting in power and data specific devices, and you're adding in these legends, right? So a symbols legend that has all the power and data components, and you're just placing them where they need to go in terms of code requirements. Okay, so as long as you understand that, you're not going to have too much of a problem with those other like seemingly confusing drawings, right? As long as it's at that point it's just like a codes thing and knowing where you need to put stuff. But in terms of the actual content that goes on the drawing, it's not too bad. So if you're setting up your view templates and you're doing all of that correctly and kind of using schedules and legends how you need to be using them, you should be pretty good to go in terms of the CD set. It's just like a lot of requirements that you'll be meeting to make sure that you're doing everything they ask. But I think that's going to do it. That's more than enough talking for tonight. If you have any questions throughout the week for anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. And like I said, it can be for this class or it can be for studio. This class is really meant to supplement the studio. So, anything you have for studio that is directly related to what we do in this class, please bring it up to me or bring it up to like Jakisha, because she's in the studio and she's also teaching this class as well. So one of us will definitely help you if you have any problems. But other than that, have a good night. Make sure that you're staying on top of everything for the week, and I will see y'all next week. You too.